Welcome back to As a Man Thinketh. I'm standing here today with Jim Smith on Smithview Farm. He's going to be a part of our farm series. Watch for him in a few weeks down the road. He'll be going out maybe in about 3 to 6 weeks, somewhere in that time frame, depending on how editing goes. But Jim and I were just talking. You know, Jim, I read an article the other day by a guy named Wesley Schenck on the Epic Times, where he was talking about how some of our meat coming from our local butchers is actually coming from places like China and Venezuela, and just all you wouldn't know where it's coming from, and then it's packaged here, and they sell it as made in the USA. So when we look out here and we see these cows, would you say that, you know, labeling is deceptive compared to, do people think they're buying a product that you're creating, the way that you're doing it? But what's the difference between what they're buying in the store and what you're doing here?
Well, the basic reason is they don't know where the beef is coming from. It comes from a grocery store that they assume that beef is safe, and it very well may be. But for example, the USDA has approved beef coming in, imported in from other countries, Argentina, for example, Venezuela is another one, and it comes into the USA, and as long as that carcass is cut, packaged, and labeled as, it will be labeled as product of the USA, and that is totally it's not correct. Basically, it's misinformation. It's just information that the end consumer thinks that, okay, that product is a product of the United States, US of A, and it can come from any one particular state. They have no clue that that product comes from any one of the countries. So I asked some questions from some of the people, and they said, well, actually, that product is actually USDA approved. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. I said, so we have USDA inspectors in those countries? Oh, no. The USDA does not actually reside at these plants in these countries. They give them a set of USDA guidelines, and they have to follow those guidelines. So I said, so what you're basically saying is it's the honor system. They're supposed to be doing it the way that USDA says that it should be grown, if you will, and then it comes into the United States. So here we go again, is the honor system, and everybody's not going to honor that honor system. But the end product here is consumers want to have whatever product it is, they want to have a good, clean, healthy product to eat and know that it's safe. And for example, in the United States, if you were to take a cow to be harvested and that cow is older than 30 months, they have to check that cow for mad cow disease. Now, I haven't heard of a case of mad cow disease for years, but that's still part of our USDA requirements, and in NCDA, that animal has to be checked for mad cow disease. There's no way to do that in these foreign countries. You would assume that they're being done, but then again, there's no guarantee.
Well, that's the thing, is you've got all these farmers here in the U.S. literally waiting in line to get into a USDA facility, sometimes as much as 2 years, just to get one cow there to have a product to sell. And then you've got these cows, or meat, that I guess they're not cows anymore because they're slaughtered overseas, being brought here. They don't have to be slaughtered in a USDA facility. They don't have to wait in line. But their meat's being brought here, being sold to the butchers, cut up, and basically we've made it easier for the meat to come in from overseas. Easier than it is to be a farmer here.
Exactly. And so the grocery stores and distributors, they say, well, we have product available here. It's available. And the farmer, for example, we're booked for the local processing company through the end of 2023. We had to do that to secure a slot. And so we have to manage our herd to meet those harvest dates and make sure that we got an animal ready to be harvested. Otherwise, we lose that slot. So getting beef from foreign countries is so much easier, and their prices are competitive. And think about it. If they've got a competitive price of $6.99 or $5.99 a pound for ground beef, you have to think the inner layers among from getting the cow, growing that cow. Let's just suppose that we're growing a cow in Argentina. You grow a cow in Argentina. That cow is harvested in Argentina. That cow has to be shipped to some packing companies out west, let's say Colorado or Kansas or wherever. So that's a huge transportation cost. And then that cow has got to be processed, cut and packaged and labeled. And that label says $6.99 for a pound of ground beef. Then you wonder, okay, that's the final price. What about the price that that we're buying that cow from in these foreign countries? Are we paying $2.99 a pound or whatever? Then you have to wonder, how was that cow raised for $2.99 a pound for ground beef? And there's the middle part of that equation is eating up a lot of the profit, but still they're able to meet a price that's competitive in the marketplace. Last year we charged $6.99 a pound for ground beef, and that was competitive to most all the grocery stores, but not all. You can buy a pound of ground beef for $1.99 or $2.99 at one of the local distributors here, and the first question is you want to wonder, what did that cow die of? Yeah. But that's the market, that's the world that we're living in now. So if I had a suggestion for anybody that's going to buy beef, pork, chicken, or whatever, just know where your product is coming from, and know that cow, for example, is raised in a very healthy environment.
And you are what you eat, right?
That's exactly
what
right.
You're putting in your body.
Yeah.
Now, another confusing thing with labels is I see a lot of labels in the store now that all say grass-fed. Isn't every cow at some point in its life raised on pasture?
That is a wonderful comment, and it's so interesting because a lot of people think, oh, that's grass-fed. Oh, that's good, that's really good. Well, all the cows, 100% of all cows, they eat grass. That's a given because of their rumen. So,
and that qualifies for the labeling as grass-fed, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah,
pretty much.
So, pretty much. It's rare that you will see a label that says grass-fed, grass-finished, and it's the grass-finished that you're looking for. And we take 6 months, sometimes 7, to finish a cow. And when you think about it, the packing companies, they can finish a cow grain-fed and grain finished in a feedlot. They can finish that cow in 16 to 18 months. Right now, it takes us, 6 to 7 months to finish that cow. And so you add that on, so we're into basically a 24-month process. And then we're still fighting to have beef that's competitive within the marketplace.
So when we have all these people concerned about the environment and they hear that eating beef is bad, it's actually not that eating beef is bad, but it's where they're getting it from that's not great. Because when you look out here and you look across your pastures, you have more grass than most of the farms out here. Yeah. And yet you've got how many head of cows out?
I have 18 brood cows in here, and each one of them got a baby calf, and then the bull is in there now. And so, but we're going to be moving those. In 2 more weeks, we're going to be doing the herd health, and at that point in time, they're going to be moving on to another paddock.
But the cows, as ruminants, are also benefiting the pasture when they're grazing on it, right?
Yes.
They're helping to keep the constant growth of the roots, and they're fertilizing it as they go. So it's kind of a dual benefit. You wouldn't have the pastures looking this way if you didn't have animals on them. I mean, that's kind of the reality of it.
Absolutely. And cows, when you think about it, on their front end is a bush hog, and on the back end is a fertilizer. They just take care of that pasture so good. I mean, they'll even eat some of the weeds that they have a palate for. They don't eat all weeds, unfortunately, but for example, Johnson grass. We don't have any Johnson grass on this farm because if it's any that pops up, they're going to eat it. It's very nutritional, sort of like Sudan grass. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a perfect machine to have out there. You just have to manage that machine.
When you are talking about this machine and you start putting it on just straight toxic fescue or straight grains, what happens to that machine?
Well,
does it stop working?
No, if you feed them grain, of course, they're gonna that builds up, I think. I'm not real sure about this. It builds up the temperature because grain is not a natural product for the cows to eat. Grasses is what they prefer to eat. Now, if you put grain in front of them, corn, wheat, barley, or whatever, they're going to eat that. They like it. But and toxic fescue is something else that we have to be concerned about as well. So there's a lot of things that we have to be concerned about. We just don't have any gluten products on this farm. Now, when we get into some real bad weather and we don't have a choice, then we'll give them some alfalfa pellets. And the crude protein of alfalfa pellets is really, really high, and they love it. But unfortunately, a 50-pound bag of alfalfa pellets is like $22. So we have to be very discretionary in how much alfalfa pellets. So you may, in looking at the cost curve of your farm, you say, well, rather than feeding them a whole bunch of alfalfa pellets, let's make sure that these paddocks are well rested and that we graze them 365 days a week. That's our goal, is to graze 365. But unfortunately, there's ice, there's snow, and there's heavy rain, and we have to, every year, most every year, we have to sacrifice a paddock and let them stay there and feed hay. And when we do that, the following year, we're having to totally renovate that sacrifice area. Because if you got a bunch of cows on a very short paddock, very small paddock, next year you're going to get a lot of weeds, milkweed, pigweed, you name it, it's going to prop it up. So we know that going into this, if we sacrifice a paddock, then next year our work is cut out for us. Normally, when you have good grass, you have minimal weeds, because basically that grass is so thick, the weeds have a hard time of germinating and get up, because they're going to need sunshine to germinate. The weeds are no different than any other grass. They're going to have to germinate. But if it's grass is thick, for example, it's difficult. I mean, you'll get weeds, for example, but not near as many if you have grass that's grown down to 2 inches tall. And that's another benefit of grazing half and leaving half. So many benefits to graze half and eat half. Our grass group right now is saying, well, maybe we need to graze 1/3 and leave 2/3. And I said, well, that's probably a good idea. It's going to take more management. But the member that said that, he said, well, I'm thinking about droughts, manage around droughts. And I said, well, that's a pretty good idea, really. So I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'd love to get to the point that I can graze 1/3 and then leave 2/3, and you got to keep those cows moving. Cows, by the way, cows love to be moved. They really do. We put them on a fresh paddock. They know where they're going. It's like, oh, we got a brand new salad bar. They just got that thing mixed up. They got the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the lettuce in there. Let's get on that brand new salad bar here rather than a salad bar that's almost depleted here. Yeah. So they're not stupid. They know where they're going.
Now, I mean, when you put this much care and effort into the cow, how much cleaner is the meat that the consumer is getting?
It's extremely clean, because there's nothing toxic going into. We don't spray our pastures, and we don't use the herbicides or the pesticides, and we have to manage around that, of course. But it's just good, clean beef. They're eating the best possible forage that we know how to give those cows. In the summertime, that's why we use summer annuals, because fescue does not grow very good at all in the summertime. So that's why we have to have annuals. We have winter annuals and we have summer annuals. That increases our cost curve, but it's healthy for the cows. It's good, clean beef, because they're constantly eating good quality grass. And but that's okay. We work the numbers that are okay, that work.
Now, how much of that beef do you think, when I go to the store and buy it that's made in the USA, has had all this thought put into it?
Oh boy, that's a good one.
We have no way of knowing. But
no.
I mean, and there's no way, there's when you're not even having a USDA facility process the animals, and they're just slaughtering them and sending over here, we have no idea of the origins of that beef, where it came from, how it was raised. We literally have no idea of what we're putting into our body at that point.
Most cattle farms in North Carolina, most, but not all. Let's just say, for example, Chatham County. Chatham County probably has 80 to 90% of our cattle farms are cow-calf. And that simply means that a cow will have a calf, the farmer will get that calf up to 500-600 pounds, that calf goes to the market. That calf will go over to the stockyard, that calf is sold to the buyers, and there are some buyers that will buy those calves at 500 or 600, and those are called stockers, and they'll take them and they'll finish them at a local farm. But the percentage of the farmers doing that is very small. It's profitable, but it's very small. The majority of those calves, if you will, they're going to feedlots out in the Midwest, and we know what happens then. If a farmer's got a cow that they're going to cull, and you're not going to convert that cow to ground beef simply because that cow is too old or whatever, then that cow goes there and it goes to, most of them, if they'll make that trip out west, they'll go out there. If not, they'll be sent to a local packing company here, and that will be converted to ground beef, which is probably the most humane way of taking care of that cow, because that cow is aged out.
Yeah.
And and that's okay too.
So for people watching this all over, we have viewers from all over the U.S. If they wanted to know where their meat was coming from and make good decisions, they wanted clean beef, they didn't want something that they have no idea where it came from, they don't even know if it has mad cow.
Yeah.
How do they find local farmers to buy beef from? And how difficult is it with the market right now? How booked out are you? You had to book yourself up till 2023. How long would it take if I wanted to buy meat off of you to get that meat?
Right now we're booking, we finished booking last week into October, so we're now booking into November. And we had a gentleman call 2 days ago, and he and another family, they want to buy an entire cow, and they want that cow in December. That's going to fit within our production schedule. And then we've had another gentleman, both of these are customers of ours, so they know the quality of beef they're going to be getting, and he wanted a half a cow in January 2023. So right now, we're booked all through the fall, late fall. And so if a family wants a cow from our operation, it's going to be November, or a half a cow, or November, December, and then a half a cow in January. And so like I said, we're blessed. With the pandemic, more and more families, they want to know where the beef is coming from. So they've gone out and made the investment of a freezer and $900,000, whatever, and they're ready for a half a cow or a quarter of a cow. I've delivered a lot of beef to a lot of customers, and when I get there, there's a half a pig already in that freezer. So they're storing up because of, we never know what's going to be the next generation of Omicron or whatever. We never know. Plus, they understand and appreciate, they've been on the internet. They understand local farms, for the most part, are producing good, clean beef. And another thing about this, there's an app called Meat Suite, M-E-A-T, capital S-U-I-T-E. You can go onto that app and say, okay, I want a Thanksgiving turkey. You look on there for free-range turkeys, for example. What farms are raising free-range turkeys? And some of them are going to be within 50 miles of where you live, or 100 miles. So you know sort of the population around you, what type of animal, lamb, pork, beef, pasture-raised, or grass finished. You have a really good idea, and then when you click on that, say where's zip code 27312, 50 miles, if they're living in Raleigh, then they know, okay, then I know that Smithview Farm is about 45 miles from my place. Then their next question is, if I order a half a cow, how am I going to get that half a cow? Well, we deliver all of our beef at the retail price that we charge for that. So all the packaging cost and the delivery to their front door is a half a cow. So basically, we believe if we take the pain away from the customer, it's easy to do business with. The only thing that they have to do is plan for the investment of a half a cow. We sell it hanging weight. So, and we give the hanging weight when we take a cow to the market and they harvest that cow. I will email those customers what the hanging weight is if they order a quarter, divide it by 4, and then they know exactly the price that they're dealing with on that. So there's no hidden agenda, and people hate hidden agendas, and we hate them too. And they like to know quality beef. They want to pay a fair price, and they want to know where that cow came from, and it all sort of comes together. But at a grocery store, who knows? Who knows where the beef is coming from? I think right now that the general public is becoming more knowledgeable and more informed about this. Back to the meat suite. That app was developed by a PhD guy up in New Jersey. Of all places, he developed this app, and it was so the farmers in New Jersey have been using this app, or the consumers been using this app for probably 4 or 5 years. Well, the people at NC Choices knew about that, so they got this guy down here to tell them more about Meat Suite, and they said, this is something that we need to offer the farmers. So all the farmers that sell to the public, all they've got to do is go in and put the pricing of their product and have a little profile of what they're all about and have a picture of your farm, and it will show up on Meat Suite, and it takes all of the pain away because people can do online shopping without ever leaving their den, and they know exactly what type of product they're getting. It's an amazing application, and every time I go on there, it's populated more and more. Farmers are getting used to that, and they're thinking, wow, why haven't I been doing this for all along? And farmers are really good in growing their product and managing their product, but they don't know how to market. And that's where Meat Suite comes in. And I'm part of that crowd. I knew how to, I thought I knew how to raise cows. I do now, more so than I did 7 years ago. But now I'm understanding it's all about making sure that people know about our farm, and Meat Suite is a perfect way of doing that. If they think our pricing is too expensive, they'll go to the next farm and look for the same quality, grass-fed versus grain-finished, and if they get the same quality and they feel it's cheaper and they closer to them, then they'll choose that farm, and that's more power to them. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually giving more power to the people by letting them choose where their animals are coming from, how they're raised, versus when they go to a store, not knowing any of that information. Their purchase decisions can't affect what they want to see, or doesn't have an impact, so they have no power at the grocery store.
Absolutely.
But well, thank you for talking with me, and
you're most welcome.
Yeah, and we'll have Jim's farm out on the Beat My Neighbor Farm series in the next few weeks.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you guys for coming out.
No problem.
Appreciate that. Absolutely.